Hi, welcome to Revenue Marketing Television, the CMO Insights series. I am your host, Jeff Pedowitz, President and CEO of the Pedowitz Group. Today, it is my distinct pleasure to have with us Rand Fishkin, who is the founder and wizard of Moz. Rand, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Good to be here.
I'm really excited we're able to get this scheduled. So I can't think of anybody better to talk about just the incredible changes that have happened in inbound marketing and search over the last few years. So, maybe just at a very high level, talk about some of the major transitions things are going. Where were they, let's say a year ago? Where are they now? And where do you see them going a year or two from now?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of big picture trends that have been happening. One is obviously consolidation, right? So you see, whereas there was a massive bunch of diffused, diverse sources that could send you web traffic in sort of the first 15 years of the web, that's actually consolidated quite a bit. And now the top, 4 or 5 players, it's almost down to like the top 2 or 3 are sending the overwhelming majority of traffic. Right now, that's mostly Facebook and Google. But if you add in kind of the next top 10, you're getting, 70% plus of all referring traffic on the web. So really just a few players in where you can get your internet traffic. Sorry, say that again?
Would you include LinkedIn in that next tier? Or?
Yeah, they are in that tier. In fact, I can, if you want, I'll send you a graph. I have a chart of all the top refers from the web. And,
sure, no, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll try and pull that up for you. But Reddit's in there as well. Twitter is also in there. LinkedIn is certainly in there. YouTube is in there. Bing is in there. Yahoo is still in there. But when you talk about, I think Google is something like 58% of all refers or something, and Yahoo is down at like 2.5%.
Wow!
But Yahoo's still in the top 10. So, it's kind of crazy that you have this this world of very few players where you can get your traffic. So that's a big one. Another big one is obviously the growth of mobile. And I think the trend that surprises folks the most in the marketing world is that it turned out that mobile apps, which we all thought, wow, everybody's going to have to build an app. How do I do App Store SEO? How do I get visible there? You know what? Turns out people don't install very many apps on their phone, and they use even fewer. In fact, I think the average American installs or uses 0 new apps
in
a given month. So let's do 2 things. One, let's exclude games,
okay,
which I think is really important from that list. And 2, let's exclude anything that is never used after install. So after the first time you install it and use it once, you never fire it up again. If you exclude that, the app world is tiny. You're basically talking, once again, same story, consolidation. The top 10 apps own 90+% of all time spent in apps on the phone. Where you still have diversity, though, is in browsers. So basically, people still visit lots and lots of different websites. Like the web has maintained its ability to attract visitors to various websites, big and small alike. And that, I think, is a really good thing for small and medium businesses, and even for big businesses who are trying to compete in this space. That obviously could change if the FCC rules against net neutrality, but for now, it's sort of status quo on that. Another huge thing that surprised me a lot, I don't know, but probably surprised you too. I bet surprised a lot of CMOs. Do you remember 3-4 years ago, everyone was talking about we're putting a huge amount of our budget, our content, our marketing efforts into social media?
Yep.
Like social media marketing was dominant, it was becoming huge. And what we saw was that trend plateaued and even declined in many enterprises over the last really 12 months. And I think a number of folks in the social media world have said that they believe a big part of that backing off is because of I'm not exactly sure how to describe this, but sort of the vitriol and the uncontrollability of social media platforms, right? So basically, as I think we saw here in the United States, with regards to the election last year, as the social media landscape became incredibly polarized and also much more fraught with sort of dangerous pitfalls for brands in particular, but for individuals as well. and Twitter and Facebook both got a ton of heat from political parties and sociological studies and all sorts kinds of things. There was actually a backing off where a lot of businesses said, hey, you know what? I'm not sure that I want to play in this social space with as much of my budget and as much of my marketing efforts and expertise as I thought before.
I think
and so now we're seeing that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Don't you also think, though, I think many marketers are still having trouble quantifying the return versus, I can run an ad that I can measure, but just it's really been hard to measure a true impact of some of the social strategies.
And yeah, like Facebook tried to fix this, right? Facebook was like, oh my God, people are not putting as much into this. And so they went through all their apps and all their refer systems to make sure that the refer was more correct and that you could append URL parameters to track campaigns. And I don't think a lot of these businesses are coming back. There's many folks who are saying, I don't know if you follow Avinash Kaushik from Google.
Yes.
But he was saying, he had this great blog post a few weeks ago where he said, hey, if you're going to invest in social, invest in paid. It's trackable, it's measurable, it reaches people. The social platforms want to show your message to people. Don't invest in organic. Stop organic social investment. You're wasting your time and your money. And I disagree with him for certain companies, but for many brands, I looked at the stats that he looked at and I had to agree.
It is. I think it's difficult. Certainly see a lot of viability in listening, especially if you're trying to improve customer service, if you're trying to monitor brand perceptions and you're trying to get a read on the pulse of the market. I think social continues to have a very viable place, but as a marketing channel, it's definitely been a mixed bag, I think. Particularly with B2B marketers who are always a little bit slower, I think, to adopt that as a channel. Your comments on mobile are interesting too, because more people are trying to evaluate mobile, but there's kind of a resistance. A lot of people, if it makes sense, like you don't mind getting, let's say, a push message from Delta if you're getting ready, if your gate's changing, that's fine. But I don't know that anybody wants to get an ad coming from their app on their phone. It feels intrusive.
Yeah, certainly, you mentioned B2B, right? Like if I'm a logistics company, what is the app that I'm going to make, for the VPs of logistics at the companies that I serve, where they're going to install my app rather than just visit my website when they need to know something? It's, it's pretty hard to imagine. I think web technology is also responsible for that. To your point around push notifications, a progressive web app in a browser can send push notifications. They can send it on a laptop, a desktop, a mobile device. So you sort of lose some of the, why should I have an app versus why can't I just do a progressive web app that is accessible through the browser?
What role do you think that augmented and virtual reality will play in marketing mixes going forward?
I really don't know. I have to say, I feel like that is one of those spaces where, I think like many other types of technologies, the innovators will generally start in, sort of adult content and in video games. And then we'll see kind of how the market progresses. But we haven't even seen that nascent beginning yet. And so I'm still a little bit somewhere between skeptical and curious about how and whether it will impact marketing at all. I think let's see. Whether it will impact web marketing on a big scale in the way that things like the internet and mobile devices did. I would say there's more opportunity in maybe some other forms of emerging technology. I think that, like the blockchain and cryptocurrency, that's an interesting one. I think there's something real to be had in sort of voice search and voice answers and these, whatever you want to call them, the Alexa Home and the Google Home devices. Those are ones I'd
That's
watch.
definitely becoming more pervasive.
And
the AI and the VR, it reminds me of like telepresence. Remember from a few years ago when people were really pushing the video conferencing and they were trying to make it real live and in person. And we've got my son a whole set for Christmas, and it's really cool. And I wondered, would it make sense to do it for, let's say, a plant tour or a manufacturing plant, or you're trying to test you want to test different store layouts of merchandising, and you want to kind of see how people would react to things before you actually spend the money to lay out the store. So I could see some uses for it, but then how do you then actually deliver that in a remote fashion and get people to engage? It seems like a lot of extra effort when you could just grab the people and bring them over to a store. So yeah, it's kind of hard.
It's a tough one. I think replacing in person is going to be a real challenge. But yeah, on the voice search, I mean, to your point, they are getting massively more pervasive, and I think that's actually a huge risk, right? So Google, to my point earlier, sends 58-60% of all referring traffic, but a voice answer is very tough to monetize. It's very tough to get any traffic or any marketing value from. I think it's pretty tough when I say, hey Google, okay Google, tell me how many podcasts Jeff Pedowitz has produced, right? And then they give me an answer that they found by crawling your website. Do you get any value from that? You don't get a visit. You can't cookie me. You can't collect my email. You don't own the user experience or the UI. What do you get out of giving Google access to your data at that point? Not a lot, right? And that's pretty frustrating. If you have great answers to other, marketing problems like, hey, okay, Google, what do CMOs think are the big trends in web marketing next year? And Google says, according to jeffpedowitz.com, it's blah, 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 blah. I don't think that according to yourwebsite.com gives me much marketing value.
No, but I think what will happen, though, is really it just becomes another form of search of data, right? So take something simple like I order Domino's Pizza via Alexa every Friday. So I'm a pizza chain, and I want to know the percentage of people that are ordering pizza through the app on the phone. So maybe then I can send coupons to you via email or through the mail, or I can do some very targeted advertising on TV that shows how easy it is to use the voice assistant to order pizza from the home. So, I mean, I think there are probably other ways where you're probably, as an advertiser, you're going to either be buying the data or you're going to be, just kind of like you could do retargeting now, right, and lookalikes on Facebook and Google. Like, you could probably extend that then, right, to try and figure out the other channels as they start to make that prevalent.
Well, but it's all owned by Google, right? It's their world. You're just living in it and hoping they give you access to the data and hoping they let you pay them. And that is very different from Google sends me free referral traffic because I provide a great answer to a question, and then I own the rest of the experience. So it's just a very different dynamic between
that's probably how they
balance of power.
Monetize it, right? It's no different than in consumer packaged goods, right? And then with a big box retailer. So the big box retailer has the point of sale system, and they don't want to give up the data. But I'm Procter and Gamble, and I want to understand what people are doing in the stores, so I could target them directly. You would think that there should be this partnership between everybody because there's a lot of value in that data if the data
Sure.
is shared. But it's really interesting. So, is this becoming pretty much between, I guess it's an oligopoly between Marketo, not Marketo. Yeah, Marketo would love an oligopoly, but between Google and Facebook, is that kind of dominating?
Well, I think Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, and arguably, and potentially a few others. But yeah, maybe you'd put Apple in there and say that those are the big five tech companies and they sort of own everything and everyone else just lives in their world. And certainly from a market cap perspective and from a, ownership of data and time on site and, ownership of the web, they really do. But I'm not sure that's a good thing for the rest of us.
Right, no,
at least there's competition.
Point, right? Yeah, then the prices go back up, right? If they have nobody to answer to.
Amazon is this way forever, right? We all sort of love the cheap prices that we get. We love our Prime subscriptions.
Today,
but once Amazon, right? Once Amazon gets enough market share, guess what? They know you're not going anywhere else. Now they can pour on the profits, right? And I think that sucks. Sucks to live in that world, right?
That's why it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with net neutrality and some of the other government regulations down the road. Because just as businesses, I think it's something that we have to be wary of, right? And if the channels are controlled, then the cost will then potentially go up. And I just think even through all this, it's getting harder and harder to develop meaningful and real relationships with potential customers, but just because there's so many channels and so many different ways to reach them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think that to the exponential growth in the amount of noise and noise filtering that a human being in 2017 does on planet Earth compared to one in even 1997, right? That curve was. I think I saw something, right? Mark Twain in the 1800s was complaining about how you couldn't go anywhere without seeing advertisements, and people were constantly bombarded. They lost their attention spans. Well, I think he'd be very disappointed to see where we are today.
It's definitely a crazy world for sure. So then what's going to be the disruptor? What's going to come along and change this paradigm? Is there going to, there has to be another Google out there, right? Or Facebook?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that there is almost certainly going to be different players that emerge as we get more and more connected devices, and as we rely on connected devices for sort of our homes and our transportation. And that, maybe that'll be Google, maybe it'll be Uber, maybe it'll be Lyft or somebody else like that. It could be a device company we've never heard of, and that could be interesting as well. I think there's also almost definitely going to be some very powerful companies emerging in sort of this world of blockchain. And that's not necessarily exclusively around cryptocurrency, although that's obviously the big one that a lot of people are very interested in right now. But I think that blockchain technology, it does kind of what the web did for, the opportunity to have a message and to build a brand, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, which is create a platform that is secure and reliable, that anyone can use, that has the potential to be, personalized and automated and high frequency and scalable. And I think that we'll see a lot of interesting technology built on top of that for sure.
It's a great time to be a marketer, right?
Well, it's a great time. It's a challenging time, though. I think, you either specialize or you are overwhelmed. I think CMOs have a really, really tough time right now because, 20 years ago, you could say, yeah, I'm familiar with all the marketing channels and I can have, a reasonable grasp of each one. I think saying you have even a reasonable grasp of every marketing channel opportunity today is probably incorrect. There are probably some that you don't know anything about, no matter who you are and how experienced you are, myself included.
And even if you did, are you truly optimizing it? And do you have enough data?
Yeah. Do you have a great network in that space? Do you know who to hire there? Do you know how to train them? Do you know how to measure their success and their impact? Do you know the ins and outs of the platform? Do you have any time at all to pay attention to the changes that are almost definitely happening daily in every one of these fields? That's a really hard thing.
A lot of change for sure. So, well, I can't believe our time's up already. It's a great conversation, and I always love talking to you. So thank you so much for taking your time today.
Yeah, you bet, man. Great to see you. And good luck with the show.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers.